Skill D. Matching words and categories. 1. Campus Life.
Hi, Tony. Where are you headed?
Hey, Mary. I'm going to the campus gym to lift weights. Want to come? There's an aerobics class at 5 o'clock.
No thanks. I've got to study for my chemistry midterm. Maybe next time. How often do you go?
I try to go 3 times a week. When I study, I sit too much. I don't feel good unless my body gets some exercise, not just my mind.
Do you usually just lift weights?
No, I lift to get stronger. Then I run on the treadmill to help my heart and lungs. Then I jump rope or do aerobics to improve my balance and coordination.
Wow, I wish I had that much discipline.
Start slowly and do a little more each day.
Thanks for the advice. Well, have fun. Maybe I'll go next week.
Bye. Good luck on your midterm.
Number 1. Based on the conversation, match each exercise with the correct category. 2 choices will not be used. Number 2. What is the man's main point? Number 3. Who will go to the gym? Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
I'm going to the campus gym to lift weights. Want to come? There's an aerobics class at 5 o'clock.
Number 4. Why does the student mention the class? Two. Physical science.
Rocks wear down and break apart due to a process called weathering. There are 2 main types of weathering, mechanical and chemical. Mechanical weathering involves the disintegration or destruction of rocks by mechanical processes. These include the freezing and thawing of water in the crevices, holes and cracks of rocks. Also, the roots of plants can cause rocks to break apart. The tiny hair-like roots grow into small cracks in rocks. Then, as the roots get bigger, the roots crack the rocks. Animals are also responsible for mechanical weathering. They burrow or dig into the rocks and the dirt around the rocks. Mechanical weathering is especially common in high altitudes, where it's so cold that freezing and thawing happen every day. It's also common in deserts, where there is little water and few plants. Chemical weathering involves the decomposition of rocks by chemical changes or solution. This includes the processes of oxidation, carbonation, and hydration. For example, many iron minerals found in rocks are rapidly oxidized, meaning they can quickly turn to rust. It sounds funny, but rocks can rust or oxidize. Then there is carbonation. Limestone is a rock that does this. Limestone is a type of rock that is dissolved by water which contains carbonic acid. We'll go into more detail about the reaction later. Anyway, chemical weathering takes place in warm, wet conditions. In general, chemical weathering is more common than mechanical weathering, although they usually act together.
Number 1. Match the process with the correct category. Number 2. According to the speaker, where is mechanical weathering most common? Number 3. What process occurs when limestone is put in water? Number 4. What is the professor doing when she says this?
These include the freezing and thawing of water in the crevices, holes and cracks of rocks.
Three. Campus life.
I just don't get it.
Get what?
Professor Johnson's biology lecture. I took notes, but I don't understand them.
You should go to a review session.
A review session?
Yeah, a review session is a discussion that's led by a student who has already taken the class. They review the professor's lecture and the homework assignments for each week. Then they answer questions.
It sounds like an extra class.
You don't have to go, but if you're having trouble, a review session will help you a lot. I went to one last year when I had Professor Johnson's class.
Yeah? How did you do?
I got an A-.
When is the review session?
Let's see. You have your choice. You can go Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. or Tuesday from 3 to 4.
I've got economics on Tuesday. I guess I could go Monday.
It's up to you.
I'll think about it.
Number 1. Based on the conversation, match each word or phrase with the correct time and place. Number 2. What is the main point of the discussion? Number 3. According to the conversation, which of the following are true? 2 of the answers will not be used. Listen to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
If you're having trouble, a review session will help you a lot. I went to one last year when I had Professor Johnson's class.
Number 4. What can be inferred about the woman? Four. Business.
Advertisements. They're everywhere. You can't hide from them. There's no escape. Turn on the TV, there they are. Turn on the radio, there they are. Waiting for an elevator, there they are. Using your computer, there they are. Looking out your car window, ads, ads, ads. Aren't you getting tired of them?
Yes, especially on my computer and on TV. I wish there weren't so many of them.
Well, would you believe you've actually seen more ads than you think? You've also been watching secret ads. Instead of regular ads, today we are seeing lots more of something called product placement. Product placement is like an ad that's not an ad. It's an advertisement in disguise. For example, how many of you have seen the movie Cast Away with Tom Hanks? Most of you. Which company does Tom Hanks work for at the start of the movie?
FedEx.
Bingo. That's a product placement. FedEx, short for Federal Express, got more publicity from that movie than it could have with hundreds of traditional ads. In another movie, The Firm, the main character drank a beer from Jamaica called Red Stripe. In the movie's first week, sales of Red Stripe increased 50%. Product placement used to be limited to movies. Now we see it on TV shows, video games, even in books. It's an effective technique. But companies have to be careful. They want their products to be visible within a scene, but not the focus of attention. When done correctly, product placement can add a sense of realism to a movie or television show that something like a bottle simply marked beer cannot.
Number 1. Match each example with the appropriate category. Number 2. What is the speaker's main point? Number 3. According to the professor, what is product placement? Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
Which company does Tom Hanks work for at the start of the movie?
FedEx.
Bingo.
Number 4. What does the professor mean when he says this?
Bingo.
Five. Music.
Today we're going to learn about a kind of song called a ballad. A ballad is a song that tells a story. Usually, the story in a ballad is one that began with oral tradition. Parents passed it down to their children from generation to generation. Ballads are often sung in rhyme, like a poem. Unlike a poem, though, ballads do not use a lot of explanation. The words are usually simple, clear, and easy to read. There is not much emotion, and the motives of characters, that is, why they do something, is not usually told. One famous battle from the 1800s is called Shenandoah. Shenandoah. It tells the story of a white man who was in love with an American Indian woman. She lived near the Missouri River, one of the two largest rivers in the United States. Listen to part of the song. The white man loved an Indian maiden. Away, you rolling river. With notions his canoe was laden. Away, I'm bound away, cross the wide Missouri. O Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Away, you rolling river. For her I've crossed the rolling water. Away, I'm bound away, cross the wide Missouri. Notice the dialogue in the second verse. The white man tells his lover's father, O Shenandoah, I love your daughter. For her I've crossed the rolling river. Such dialogue is typical of ballads, so we have three characteristics of ballads so far. 1. They tell a story. 2. They come from oral tradition. 3. They repeat simple words and use dialogue.
Number 1. Match the information with the correct name. Number 2. What is the main idea of the talk? Number 3. According to the speaker, which is true of ballads and poems? Listen again to part of the lecture and answer the question.
Usually, the story in a ballad is one that began with oral tradition. Parents passed it down to their children from generation to generation.
Number 4. What does the professor mean when he says this?
Usually, the story in a ballad is one that began with oral tradition.
Six. Earth science.
Trade winds are a pattern of wind found in regions near the Earth's equator. Do you remember what the equator is?
The imaginary circle around the middle of the Earth that divides the planet into the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere.
Very good. Now, in the old days, sailors used to sail their boats back and forth across the equator on their way to trade things with other nations. They depended on the wind to get them there quickly, hence the name trade winds. The trade winds begin in regions called the horse latitudes. These are regions between 30 degrees and 35 degrees north and south of the equator. The winds in the horse latitudes are light, and the weather there is hot and dry. Because of the light winds, trading ships would become stalled in the horse latitudes. Sailors were worried about running out of water, so they threw their horses into the sea. This way, they could drink the water meant for the horses. It also made their boats lighter, so they could go faster. The trade winds blow from the horse latitudes toward the equator. In the northern hemisphere, they blow from the northeast and are called the northeast trade winds. In the southern hemisphere, they blow from the northeast and are called the southeast trade winds. The trade winds between about 30 degrees latitude and the equator are steady and blow about 22 to 24 kilometers per hour. They can quickly propel ships across the ocean.
Number 1. Match the word or phrases with the correct location. Number 2. What is the speaker's main point? Number 3. Which of the following are associated with trade winds in the Northern Hemisphere? Choose 2 answers. Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
Trade winds are a pattern of wind found in regions near the Earth's equator. Do you remember what the equator is?
Skill E. Making inferences and predictions. 1. Campus life.
Excuse me, I'd like to buy a bicycle permit, please.
That will be $4.
Here you are. And the permit will let me park my bike anywhere on campus?
Yes.
How long is the permit valid for?
It's valid for the next 4 years. Okay, now I need your bicycle serial number.
My serial number. Just a minute. Here it is. A710023.
All right. Next I need some identification with your address on it.
My address. Oh yeah, I have my driver's license.
Sure, your driver's license will be fine. All right. Last but not least, you need to fill out this bicycle registration card. Then we'll give you your permit.
Here you are.
Thank you. Now you need to make sure this permit is in plain sight on your bicycle. Attach it to the main frame on the center post below the seat. If we can't see it, you will have to pay a fine.
No problem, thanks.
Number 1. Why does the student want to buy a bicycle permit? Number 2. What do we learn about the student from this conversation? Number 3. Where should the man keep the permit? Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
Last but not least, you need to fill out this bicycle registration card. Then we'll give you your permit.
Number 4. What does the woman mean when she says this?
Last but not least, you need to fill out this bicycle registration card.
Two. Art.
Today we're going to see how much you know about China.
It's got the Great Wall.
And rice.
And chopsticks.
No, not that China. Yes, China is a country, but there's another China, the kind you eat off of. This China is a fancy type of porcelain. Porcelain is a material used to make plates, cups, and bowls. When people get married in America, one of the oldest customs is for the bride and groom to choose which type of china they want for their new home. There are 4 main processes in creating china. These are clay making, mold making, glazing, and decorating. In the clay making process, 5 ingredients are mixed together with water and shaped into tubes. These tubes are called pugs, P-U-G-S. In the mold making process, plaster is poured into metal molds to make production molds. These production molds are then used to shape the pugs into plates, cups, and bowls. Next comes the glazing process. Glaze is like liquid glass. When it's heated, glaze forms a protective shell around each piece of china. Glaze is incredibly strong. A store in Canada once showed how strong china is by using 4 teacups to support a race car. Can you picture that? A heavy car with only 1 small cup under each wheel? After glazing, the china is ready for decorating. Here, artists use 85 patterns and 400 different shapes to make the china look beautiful. Then, it's ready to be sold.
Number 1. Why does the professor mention a race car? Number 2. What can be inferred about how china is painted or decorated? Number 3. What is a pug? Listen again to part of the lecture and answer the question.
But there's another china, the kind you eat off of. This china is a fancy type of porcelain. Porcelain is a material used to make plates, cups, and bowls. When people get married in America, one of the oldest customs is for the bride and groom to choose which type of china they want for their new home.
Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
When people get married in America, one of the oldest customs is for the bride and groom to choose which type of china they want for their new home.
Three. Campus life.
I'd like to check out this book, please.
May I please see your student ID card?
I'm sorry, ma'am, it's been stolen. It was in my wallet, which was stolen.
I'm not allowed to check out any books for you without it.
Oh, that's great. What should I do now?
You can download the form for a new student ID card from the computer. Fill it out and take it over to the Student Center. Actually, they can also give you the form there.
Thanks. I don't think I'll bother. Doesn't it cost $10?
It does. You might just want to do it, though. You won't be allowed to sit for exams without it.
All right, I guess I'll have to. I suppose they'll want a passport photo, too.
Yes, and a copy of your identification, driver's license or passport.
All right, I'll go over there. Thanks, ma'am.
You'll be glad to have it. Good luck.
Number 1. Where is the man's library card? Number 2. Where will the student go? Number 3. What is the student's problem? Choose 2 answers. Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
I'm not allowed to check out any books for you without it.
Oh, that's great.
Number 4. Why does the student say this?
Oh, that's great.
Four. Health.
Let's begin our study of vitamin D. It's something we must have. Among other things, it helps our bodies use the important mineral calcium. Calcium makes our bones strong. It also helps our nerves and muscles work the way they should. Let's open our textbooks to page 63. I'd like you to take a look at these pictures. As you can see, these children don't look well at all. The bones in their heads haven't come together as they should. That's why their heads are too big. Their legs curve out. The bones are too soft to stand on. These children didn't get enough vitamin D. Happily, we don't see this too often anymore. Vitamin D is not in most of the foods we eat. We get it mostly from the sun. Ultraviolet rays from the sun transform something in our skin. It becomes what's called pre-vitamin D3. Inside our bodies it changes again. It becomes what's called active vitamin D. With active vitamin D, our bones can make enough calcium to stay hard. Active vitamin D helps us have enough calcium for our nerves too. This helps us feel calm and sleep well. Today, many people need to have stronger bones. Many older people's bones, especially, break far too easily. One main reason why is that people don't get nearly enough sunlight. We close windows to stay warm in the winter, and in summer we close windows for air conditioning. But we really need time in the sunshine almost every day.
Number 1. What is shown in the picture in the student's books? Number 2. According to the professor, why do old people have weak bones? Number 3. Why do we need to spend time in the sunshine almost every day? Listen again to part of the lecture and answer the question.
Let's open our textbooks to page 63. I'd like you to take a look at these pictures.
Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
I'd like you to take a look at these pictures.
Five. Computer science.
I did a search on Google yesterday. It was amazing. I typed in horses and hit the search button. In less than a second, it showed me more than 32 million websites related to horses. Do you ever wonder how computers can think so fast? Well, I did another Google search and I found out. Computer chips are based on something called Boolean logic. This is a type of thinking developed in the mid-1800s by George Boole, B-O-O-L-E. Boolean logic maps information into bits and bytes. It begins with 7 electronic pathways called gates. The simplest gate is called a NOT gate. The NOT gate takes one bit of input, which we'll label A, and produces an output, which we'll label Q. That is exactly opposite. So, if input A is 1, the output Q will be 0. If A is 0, Q will be 1. Simple. Next is the AND gate. The idea behind an AND gate is this. If there are 2 bits of input, say A and B, and if A and B are both the same, then the output, called Q, should be the same. After the NOT gate and the AND gate comes the OR gate. Its basic idea is if A or B is 1, or if both A and B are 1, then Q is also 1. The next 2 gates are called NAND and NOR. These 2 gates are simply combinations of an AND or an OR gate with a NOT gate. Now next comes
Number 1. What would be the output for the input 0, 0 into AND gate? Number 2. What will the speaker probably discuss next? Number 3. According to the speaker, why are computers able to think so fast? Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
I did a search on Google yesterday. It was amazing. I typed in horses and hit the search button. In less than a second, it showed me more than 32 million websites related to horses.
Six. Biology.
Let's begin. Last week, we learned how most fish use their swim bladder to move around in the water. Remember, when the fish breathes oxygen, some of that oxygen goes into its bladder? This causes the fish to rise in the water. When it squeezes some of the gas out of its bladder, it sinks toward the bottom. So it can move vertically, go up and down, kind of like a hot air balloon. A shark is more like an airplane. Sharks don't have a swim bladder, so they use their forward movement to control their vertical position. The tail is like the shark's propeller. The shark swings it back and forth to move forward. In an airplane, this forward movement pushes air around the wings. For a shark, this forward movement pushes water around the fins. In both cases, the forward movement creates lift. The airplane and shark both rise. Sharks have two pairs of fins on each side of their bodies. These fins are in about the same position as the main wings and tail wings on an airplane. The shark can position these fins at different angles. This changes the path of the water around them and enables the shark to move quickly upward or downward. The shark also has two vertical fins on its back. These are like the stabilizer fin on an airplane. They allow the shark to keep its balance as it moves through the water and help it turn quickly left and right.
Number 1. What did the class study in a previous lecture? Number 2. What does the speaker imply about a shark's movement? Number 3. Which of the following is true according to the lecture? Listen again to part of the lecture and answer the question.
So it can move vertically, go up and down, kind of like a hot air balloon. A shark is more like an airplane.
Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
So it can move vertically, go up and down, kind of like a hot air balloon.
Skill F. Placing steps in a sequence. 1. Computer science.
Robots are very popular these days. We see movies and television shows in which robots move, speak, and have personalities that are almost human. Like R2-D2 and C-3PO in Star Wars, and Data from the Star Trek TV series. In real life, there are robot dogs, robots that walk on two legs like a person, robots that clean your house, and robots that work in factories to help build cars. What exactly is a robot? That's a surprisingly difficult question. Different people have different ideas. One famous scientist said, "I can't define a robot, but I know one when I see one." The easiest definition is that a robot is something most people say is a robot. However, people who build robots have a more precise definition. They say a robot must have a reprogrammable brain, in other words, a computer that moves a body. The vast majority of robots have several features in common. First of all, almost all robots have a movable body. Some move only by wheels, and some have many movable parts that are joined together. These parts are usually metal or plastic. Secondly, robots have some sort of actuator. That's actuator. And this actuator spins their wheels or moves their parts. An actuator could be an electric motor, or a hydraulic system, or compressed gas, which we call a pneumatic system. Some robots use all these actuator types, motors, hydraulics, and pneumatic systems. And third, robots need a power source for their actuators. They could have a battery, or they could plug into a wall.
Number 1. The instructor explains the features that robots have in common. Summarize his remarks by putting the features in the correct order they were mentioned. One answer will not be used. Number 2. According to the speaker, which of the following words are associated with robots? Choose two answers. Number 3. What does an actuator do? Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
Robots are very popular these days. We see movies and television shows in which robots move, speak, and have personalities that are almost human.
Two, health.
If you have white skin, you're in danger of getting sunburn. The cells in your skin are not protected from the sun's ultraviolet radiation or UV rays. If you don't protect your skin when you go outside, your skin can become red and sore. We call this sunburn. I bet we've all experienced this at some point in our lives. What happens is this. UV rays damage the cells in your skin. The body responds by sending more blood to these cells to repair the damage. This is why your skin is red when you get sunburn, because of this extra blood. The blood begins moving toward the damaged areas 4 hours after you've first been in the sun and will keep moving there as much as 24 hours afterwards. You won't know you're sunburned until it's too late. Sunburn is dangerous because it increases the chance that you will get skin cancer. People who have been sunburned a lot get skin cancer much more often than those who don't get sunburned very much. So, it's very important to protect your skin when you're in the sun. The best way to do this is to use sunscreen. Sunscreen is a lotion you put on your body about 30 minutes before you go outside. Sunscreen helps in 2 ways. It can block UV rays. Like a shield, it stops them before they reach your skin. Sunscreen can also absorb UV rays. This means the lotion eats the UV rays. The rays stay in the lotion instead of your skin.
Number 1. The speaker explains what happens during sunburn. Summarize the process by putting the events in the correct order. Number 2. According to the speaker, when does blood start flowing to areas of sunburned skin? Number 3. Why is sunburn dangerous? Number 4. What does the professor imply when he says this?
I bet we've all experienced this at some point in our lives.
Three, campus life.
What's your plan for the day, Natalie?
Well, I have to work on my paper this morning. After that, I'm free. Why?
I was thinking about going to see an art show. It's about First Nations tribal totems. Do you want to go? Isn't that what your paper is about?
Yeah, you remembered, Alex. Maybe I should go see the show before I work on my paper.
It's in the Gallery shopping mall.
I know where that is. It's at 10th and Market Street.
I'll drive. But could you just quickly go over the directions with me first?
Sure, Alex. It's easy. Take University Drive to Market Street. We take Market Street eastbound to 15th Street. Then follow the circle around City Hall to continue on Market Street. We keep going on Market Street until 10th Street. Then, the main door to the mall is right on the northwest corner of 10th and Market Street.
Number 1. The woman explains how to get to the art gallery. Summarize the process by putting the steps in the correct order. Number 2. Where is the art show taking place? Number 3. How will they go to the gallery? Listen to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
I was thinking about going to see an art show. It's about First Nations tribal totems. Do you want to go? Isn't that what your paper is about?
Number 4. What can be inferred about the student? 4. Social Studies.
Today, I'd like to talk about animal helpers. There are many ways that animals can help or teach us. By that I mean how people long ago learned from animals. And even today, we can still learn from them. Think of a snake, for example. A snake grows new skin and sheds its old skin many times. It can remind us that we too need to change. The snake's old skin can be discarded because it has a new one. For us, it's the same. We let go of old things and ideas for new ones. At age 7, we think certain things. Do we think the same things at age 37? If so, we have evolved little in our lifetime. Since long, long ago, people have learned from animals they admired. Some First Nations people would go to live with and study bears. One of them might stay with a bear for a whole year. People and bears eat many of the same foods. They would learn all of the vegetation that bears know about. So First Nations people would watch bears forage for food. If a bear ate berries or roots of some plant, they knew it was okay for people to eat. Or if a bear avoided a certain plant, First Nations people would stay away from it too. Knowing about these plants helped people, especially if they migrated to a new area.
Number 1. The instructor explains how bears helped people. Summarize the information by putting the steps in the correct order. Number 2. According to the speaker, what lessons can people learn from snakes? Number 3. Why did some First Nations people study bears? Number 4. Why does the professor say this?
There are many ways that animals can help or teach us. By that I mean how people long ago learned from animals.
Five. Campus life.
Good afternoon, Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon.
Now then, you would like to apply for a position as a campus tour guide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been a tour guide?
No, I haven't, but I love people, and I've been a student here for 2 years, so I know all about the campus.
I see. Do you know what your duties would be as a tour guide?
Sure, I'd walk people around the campus, tell them the names of buildings, talk about student life, then answer questions.
That's correct. Tours are held once each day. They last for 90 minutes.
What time do they begin?
At 10 a.m., Monday through Saturday. On Sunday, tours start at 1 p.m. Monday through Friday only, the guide will give a 30-minute talk after the tour for students who want to study here but have not yet applied.
How much money do the tours cost?
They're free.
Number 1. The woman explains a tour guide's duties. Summarize her explanation by putting the information in the correct order. Number 2. How often are the campus tours? Number 3. Why does the woman think she will be a good tour guide? Number 4. What does the man imply when he says this?
Now then, you would like to apply for a position as a campus tour guide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been a tour guide?
Six. Phys Ed.
When we think of the martial arts, most of us picture spectacular fights like the flying kicks, spinning punches, and fantastic flips we see in Jackie Chan movies. Actually, people who practice martial arts use their physical skills to make their minds and spirits stronger. This is especially true with a type of martial art called karate, yes?
How do you spell that?
K-A-R-A-T-E. People who practice karate are called karatekas. K-A-R-A-T-E-K-A-S. For karatekas, karate is much more than a style of self-defense. It is the best way to strengthen their minds and spirits. Karatekas say that the fighting principles they learn in karate help them in all areas of life. The first principle karatekas must learn is to concentrate on their own movements and not think about other things. This teaches them to concentrate better on their studies or jobs. Second, they must be alert and be ready to react to a punch or kick from their opponent. This helps them be alert and react to difficult problems in life. Third, they need to focus their strongest points on their opponent's weakest points. This helps them work and focus harder on important things. Fourth, karatekas learn to make their bodies physically strong. They are ready to defend themselves and throw punches without thinking. This, in turn, makes their minds and spirits stronger. Their bodies know right away how to deal with new problems and challenges in everyday life.
Number 1. The professor mentions 4 fighting principles of karate. Summarize the information by putting the principles in the correct order. Number 2. What is a karateka? Number 3. What is the speaker's main point? Listen again to part of the conversation and answer the question.
Fourth, karatekas learn to make their bodies physically strong. They are ready to defend themselves and throw punches without thinking. This, in turn, makes their minds and spirits stronger.
Number 4. What does the professor mean when he says this?
This, in turn, makes their minds and spirits stronger.
Skill Review. 1. Campus Life.
Hello, Mr. Thompson. Are you my student advisor?
Yes, Amanda. How can I help you?
I'm thinking about majoring in history. I need History 101, History of Western Civilization. Can you tell me what the course covers?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Lucky for me.
Okay, let's see here. It starts with the beginning of Western civilization in the Near East, and it covers everything up through the 16th century Reformations. It's mostly lectures.
Uh-oh, that can be a little boring.
Yes, but I do know that Professor Johnson makes her class interesting. She shows some very intriguing DVDs, and she really gets students to ask questions.
Yeah, my friend Kelly studied with her last year. She said they had great class discussions.
Yes, I think you'll find that's true.
So, how closely does she follow the textbook?
Well, she covers all the same basic material, but you'll find the lectures won't be exactly the same, and you'll have some writing assignments.
Yes, of course.
From the class, you'll get a good basic idea how our society became the way it is. You'll learn about what our society thinks makes good citizens. You'll find out how different governments were formed, and you'll learn how technology has changed us.
And how about historians?
Oh, yes. You'll learn how historians decide what happened. You'll be asked what you think about it too.
Great. That's what I'm most interested in.
Number 1. What does the woman say she is most interested in? Number 2. What does the woman want? Number 3. How does the student advisor tell the woman about History 101? Choose 2 answers. Number 4. The woman decides she wants to take History 101. Summarize the process of her decision by putting the steps in the correct order. Number 5. What will the woman probably do? Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
So, how closely does she follow the textbook?
Well, she covers all the same basic material, but you'll find the lectures won't be exactly the same.
Number 6. What can be inferred about the class lectures? Two. Psychology.
Our mother tongue is the language we learn first from our families. We are native speakers of that language. People who know 2 languages are bilingual. Those people who know 3 or more are trilingual and multilingual. Many people have more than one native language. They learn them without going to school. And then there are many people who learn a second language through study. Like me, I only heard English at home. In order to learn Spanish, I had to study hard. Now our mother tongue, or first language, is very important. Some academics believe that it teaches us how to think. So knowing your mother tongue is very important to getting an education. Knowing it well makes learning another language easier. People who are bilingual will learn a third language even more quickly. Educators have different ideas about how we learn languages. There are 2 basic ideas. Some say babies' brains are especially ready for learning languages. They think that as we grow up, that changes. That's why it gets harder to learn languages. Others disagree with this idea. They say we learn languages the same way we learn other things. We don't know for sure just how it happens. There are places where 2 language groups may not talk to each other much. Something interesting called coordinate bilingualism happens to people here. They think about things in a special way. We know this happens in Quebec, Canada, to French-English bilinguals. Let me give you an example of what I mean. They might think of one kind of dog when they say dog in English. In French, the word for dog is chien. When saying that word, they think of a different kind of dog. Yes, Tony, did you have a question?
Are there a lot of French-English bilinguals in Quebec?
Yes, there are quite a few.
Do these people ever feel like they have 2 different personalities?
Well, yes, in fact they do. You can see how this would happen. Here are 2 different groups who don't always get along. You need to understand both groups and have them understand you. So you talk differently to each group. You end up learning 2 different ways of thinking.
Number 1. How does the professor explain coordinate bilingualism? Choose 2 answers. Number 2. What is the talk mainly about? Number 3. According to the speaker, why is knowing your native language important to education? Number 4. What can be inferred about the professor's family? Number 5. The speaker explains a sequence of ideas. Summarize the information by putting the ideas in the correct order. Number 6. What does the professor mean when she says this?
You can see how this would happen.
Three. General Studies.
Okay, pay close attention, please. I'm going to tell you what courses you need to take to graduate. Take careful notes. Each undergraduate can make his or her own curriculum. This means you can choose which classes you want to take, but we want to make sure you get a good general education, so your curriculum must include the following. First, you'll need 6 hours of composition. Those can be basic writing classes in the English department. You will also need 6 credit hours in 300 and 400 level courses that require some kind of written project. These courses will usually require you to write at least 2 lengthy papers. They will have a W next to them in your student catalogs. So those were the English requirements. Next, I'll go over the general humanities requirements. First, there is a foreign language requirement, so you'll need 6 hours of a foreign language or 6 hours of computer courses. Learning a computer language can count as a foreign language. Both the foreign language and computer courses require a grade of C or higher for credit toward graduation. Also, in the humanities, you'll need 12 hours of literature or fine arts. And on top of those 12 hours, you'll need 12 hours in history or social science courses. I haven't said anything yet about math or science. You're all required to have some of those credits too. All graduates are required to take 6 hours in the natural sciences, like chemistry or biology, plus 3 hours in math. And that math requirement could be business math or other courses like that. If you add up all those credits, you'll see that you still have quite a few credit hours needed for graduation. Those extra credit hours can be electives, so you can choose just about anything from phys ed to music to fill in the remaining credits. Now, questions?
I took 3 years of Spanish in high school. Do I have to take 2 semesters of Spanish here?
No. You can take a test and the foreign language advisors will assign you to a class based on your score. If you're placed into the Spanish 103 class or the Spanish 201 class, you will only have to take 1 semester.
Number 1. How many hours of mathematics courses do students need? Number 2. By which method does the professor explain graduation requirements? Number 3. Why must the students fulfill the requirements the professor mentions? Number 4. To what group of people was this talk most likely given? Number 5. The instructor explains a sequence of graduation requirements. Summarize the information by putting the requirements in the order he mentions them. Number 6. What does the speaker mean when he says this?
Take careful notes.
Four. Political science.
The simplest way to define ideology is as a collection of ideas. Every society has an ideology. It forms the basis of the society's public opinion or common sense. This ideology is usually invisible to most people within the society. It is just normal thinking. Everybody thinks this way. When somebody says or does something different from this normal thought, it is seen as strange or maybe even dangerous or radical. There are different kinds of ideologies. There's political, social, ethical, and so on. Let's look at political ideologies for a few moments. A political ideology is concerned with 2 things. 1. How a society should work. And 2. The rules needed to make it work that way. Some political ideologies believe in a flat social order. In a flat society, almost everyone is equal. Men are equal to women. All cultures are equally valuable. All lifestyles are acceptable. A flat social order is thought to promote diversity. It encourages people to be individuals and not conform to any one standard. People in a flat society might support alternative lifestyles, for example, gay marriage. Other political ideologies believe in a structured social order. In a structured society, there are many different levels. For example, God is a higher level than people. Men are higher than women, and some cultures are higher than others. A structured social order is thought to promote uniform thinking and behavior. It encourages individuals to respect the established social order. People in a structured society might support the nuclear family unit and military programs. Let's look at rules that make a society work. Some societies reward individuals over the group. These societies encourage individuals to achieve self-sufficiency, so they don't depend on the rest of society. This tends to create a society with a high level of economic independence among its members. Does this sound like society here? I think it fits us pretty well. Other societies reward the group over the individual. These societies encourage individuals to increase the strength of their social ties, so that they must depend on the rest of society. This tends to create a society with a high level of economic interdependence among its members.
Number 1. Which is true of a structured social order? Number 2. What are the two main concerns of political ideology mentioned in the lecture? Choose two answers. Number 3. Why might people in a flat social order believe in gay marriage? Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
This ideology is usually invisible to most people within the society. It is just normal thinking. Everybody thinks this way.
Number 4. What does the speaker mean when she says this?
This ideology is usually invisible to most people within the society.
Number 5. The instructor discusses 4 examples of political ideologies. Summarize the information by putting the ideas in the order that she mentions them. Listen to part of the lecture again, then answer the question.
This tends to create a society with a high level of economic independence among its members. Does this sound like society here? I think it fits us pretty well.
Number 6. What does the speaker imply about the society she lives in?